Hello, welcome to An Abundance of Books. My name is Julia, and today I'm doing my summer wrap-up. Last time you saw me was the Summerween vlog, so today I'm going to be talking about everything that I read between then and now. It's around 15 things. I've got some really good stuff to talk about, a couple of big disappointments in there, a couple of stinkers, but yeah, let's just get into it. We're actually going to be starting in reverse order because the first book what I want to talk about is the last thing that I read, and actually you saw me mention it in the Summerween vlog, and that is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I was going to read this for that, but then decided that it was going to be too samey, was what I said. I am nuts because this book was not similar to anything else that I have read, and it's incredible. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife follows our main character Jessica Miller as she is going to her 10-year college reunion, and during her senior year of college, her big friend group, one of them was murdered and one of them was accused of doing it, but later acquitted. Hopefully that all made sense. It is told in dual timelines of college, which actually I really liked because it jumps around a lot. It's not starting at freshman year going all the way to senior. You do a bit of freshman, a bit of junior, senior, sophomore, that's all of them, and you kind of jump between them depending on what the story is trying to tell you, which makes it a much more compelling mystery and also feel more exciting, I guess. And this book had everything. This is kind of the perfect storm of a thriller because it's such an intriguing mystery with an isolated group. You are told that one of the 7 of these people committed the murder. So you kind of get that isolated setting while it's still feeling sprawling, while having the dark academia vibe of this campus. And they do a little bit of school, but not too much. But the drama in here, the drama between all of them is so much fun. It's just like the best reality TV, but it's also a thriller, and it's also really well written and has some really interesting things to say. And it's a debut because, oh, I rearranged my shelf, so that book's not there anymore. It must be here. Because I read The Last Housewife before I read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and I thought that this was fine, but In My Dreams I Hold a Knife is the book Ashley Winstead was meant to write. It also did such a good job of making you feel smart. Like, there was a reveal at the end of a chapter, and at the beginning of the chapter, I figured it out. Which means, like, did I really figure it out? Were they laying all of the clues out specifically for me? Sure, but I still got to have that moment, and that's what's important to me. I know Ashley Winstead has a new book coming out. I think it's next week, so I'm pumped for that. Yeah, this is an easy 5-star and probably a new favorite and an infinite recommend. Then we have The Spirit Glass by Roshani Chokshi. This is a middle grade book. It is Filipino fantasy about a girl named Corazon who is becoming a babaylan, which is just, she's discovering her magic power, and she has to go on a quest to save her parents. That's a good way of putting it. There's a lot that happens with this book. It deals a lot with grief in a really beautiful way. I was sobbing for the last 25% of this book, like a really long time. There were a lot of tears, and I think it was just such a well done story. I love Corazon. I love all the people that she gets to meet. The quest that we do is so fun. There's like a shy dragon. There's these women who cook the weather. There was a river that is like dancing and mean. It felt like a Pixar movie in book form, where like it's clearly meant for children, but it has little jokes for adults and will also make you sob. Like it's also perfection. Who knew? I love Roshani Chokshi so much, and I read her adult debut, which everyone is talking about, Last Tale of a Flower Bride, which was good. It has nothing on this. This book is so perfect. There's a little lizard companion who I would die for. I'm obsessed with him. I might even like it more than her other middle grade stuff, which is saying something. The only thing I don't like is the cover, which is really unfortunate, but it is where we're at. Easy 5-star favorite, will forever recommend. Please go check it out. They're not all 5 stars, I promise. And this next one definitely isn't. I read Constance by Matthew FitzSimmons. This I'd been really looking forward to for a long time. This is a clone story. The tagline on the back is "The only way she can save her life is to solve her own murder." Whoever wrote that, give them a raise. This was good, but it was just sort of okay, especially the clone stuff I wanted a bit more from, because it was doing a lot of like, are clones people? Who am I? And like, yeah, that's interesting, but I don't think it approached it in a different way. It was all just sort of stuff I've already encountered, or like questions that like I don't think really count. Maybe I just wasn't emotionally invested enough in it to get that, but it does some really interesting things. This woman with a name, Constance, I'm so dumb. Her aunt developed a technology that would allow people to clone themselves, but it's exclusive for the very rich, except that this woman is family, so she gets the friends and family discount. And then one day she wakes up and her clone has been murdered, and the police want to talk to her, and people want to shut her down. There are like anti-cloning protests happening. And it's a good little mystery. There are definitely some fun things in here that I really enjoyed, but I felt it a little too convoluted, and it sort of lacked momentum. Like we couldn't really learn anything. We were just sort of waiting for people to tell us stuff, and they wouldn't. What could have been really fun for this was to have intermediate chapters from the original Con's perspective to sort of like get a glimpse of where she was as our new Constance is trying to track her. There could have been something really interesting there, but yeah, some good stuff in this. Some elements of grief or like found family that were interesting. Some good gore too. A lot of good parts, but less than the sum. I also had really high expectations for this, so it's a 4-star. Still really enjoyed, would recommend, just not my perfect clone story. I was really on a mystery thriller kick, I guess, because the next book we're going to talk about is Just Another Missing Person by Gillian McAllister. I think part of this was an expectations problem, because the last book Gillian McAllister wrote was Wrong Place, Wrong Time, which everyone raves about. It's really good. It does a time thing with it that was really effective and had a really compelling and unique mystery, something you don't really see. This was a fairly standard story, and I think that is a me thing, because Gillian McAllister's been writing thrillers forever, and I just sort of assumed, especially by the cover, like they're clearly by the same person, that this was going to follow in the footsteps of that, or like have some sort of sci-fi twist maybe, but it was pretty much just a straight thriller, and our main POV, Julia, is a detective, so it also has an element of that. It is very good detective fiction, and I think that the detective is well utilized. Like, they're not just a detective. She is very involved in this case and mystery. And a lot of it I really liked. There were some really fun reveals in here. One that had me just like sitting there with my jaw open, having to pause the audiobook and sort of like reevaluate everything that I had just read. Love those moments. But it was also, in hindsight, kind of obvious. So who knows? Your mileage will vary with this one, I think. I think it's a very solid book, but if you're looking for Wrong Place, Wrong Time, you're not going to get it. And the ending I found really convoluted and maybe dumb, but the ride was good, and I gave it 4 stars. The further back we go, the worse my memory is going to get. The next book I read was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, a classic. Is it a classic? When was this written? 1979, yeah. Of science fiction. So this book is hard to talk about because it is so beloved, and I get it, but I just didn't vibe with it. The big problem with it is it is so British. It is the most British thing that I have ever read, and the humor in it is going to vary for each person, but also it's so much humor that you can't really get to the story, I guess. There's lots of stuff that this book does well, some really interesting world building, interesting like alien races, some concepts. They have the impossible machine. That's definitely not what it's called, but it's just sort of silly. It's kind of nonsensical. Every other word is a made-up word from a made-up race with a made-up language, and it's too much. But it was just not for me, and I think the silliness is the best way of describing it. Humor is really hard to do, so I think I give this 3 stars. I definitely gave it 3 stars because I was afraid to give it a 2. Then we have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This book has been through the ringer, and it is so interesting because it is like perfect internet discourse of like, did you actually read the thing? Did you like absorb the words that were happening to you? Because if you look at the Goodreads, like everything that this book talks about is happening in real time, and it's so fascinating. This story is about a woman, June. I'm remembering names. She is frenemies with this very famous author who is Chinese and has all this success, and June is very jealous of that. And then one day Athena dies, and June is with her when it happens, and oops, maybe steals the manuscript that she's been working on and tries to publish it under her own name. It is such a fascinating look because it's all told through June's perspective, and it does a great job of like getting you on her side, and then she'll just push a little bit. And like you give her an inch and then maybe another inch, and then you've given her a mile, and you like can't recognize where you started with this like well-intentioned person into what she becomes. And I think it's really effective at that. It is all told from June's perspective. It's very voice heavy. You have a very complicated relationship with June, but she feels real. Where this book suffers, I think, is from the lack of plot. There's a long stretch of time covered in this book and a lot of like nothing happening and nothing outside of June and the publishing industry. She doesn't have like friends that she talks to or a romantic interest or anything. It's just sort of this one story, and I think it could have benefited a lot from a B plot. But yeah, everything that I think this book had to say was really interesting. I know people have given it some flack for showing a very narrow lens of the publishing industry, but it is also clear that it is rooted in personal experience, and you don't have to do both if you make it clear which one you're doing, which I think this did a very good job of doing, and I really enjoyed it. I just think it was a little long and slow, and I give it 4 stars. Next we have Going Bicostal by Dahlia Adler. This is my first Dahlia Adler, and I read this at the height of summer, where it should be. This follows our main character. I can get it. She has a couple of names. Nat. It's like Natalia or something. Yeah, Natalia. Ha ha ha. I'm good at this game. Natalia is a junior in high school, and her parents are divorced, and she is given the choice of where she wants to spend her summer, on the East Coast with her dad or on the West Coast with her mom, and you follow both of those timelines. It's a sliding doors by YA romance. What more could you ask for? There's a lot that I like about this book. I think what holds it back is it being YA, and also it's pretty short, 320, but you're doing 2 stories within that, and both of the stories have huge friends groups, like huge, maybe not huge, but like 6 people, but then that's 12 people that you then have to remember which timeline they're in and how they relate to each other. And yeah, there wasn't as much crossover or sort of differentiation because she sort of gets swept up with this group, with a group either way. It was focused a lot on the romance but tried to pretend that it wasn't about the romance, and yeah, I think it should have just like committed. There will also inevitably be one timeline here that you prefer to the other, but overall I thought that this was super fun. This was my first Dahlia Adler, so I think I'd look out for the other stuff that she's done if any of it piques my interest. This I gave 3 stars. It's super solid. I think if you like a YA sliding doors, you will get that out of this and you will have a good time. It's just not life-changing. All right, back on those thrillers. The Soulmate by Sally Hayworth. This is about a husband and wife who own a beach house, and it is a popular place for people to jump to end their own lives. And then one day they see a woman out there. The husband goes to comfort her, and then she falls off the cliff. Did he push her? Did she jump? What nefarious things are going on? What secrets are people keeping from each other? Yada, yada, yada. I really liked the writing style of this book. I think that it was really compelling. The voices of the characters were really interesting. It was just too small. It's a small cast, and it's just like there's only really two possibilities there, right? Like, he pushed her, she jumped, she tripped, act of God, I guess. Those are the four options. So like, it's less of a mystery. It's more about the secrets from the past and a character story about this couple and how they met and fell in love. What I did not expect was for this book to be dual POV. One of them is from the wife and the other is from the ghost of the woman who fell. It was a choice, but I didn't hate it. I think I respect the balls for doing something like that. A perfectly fine thriller, nothing groundbreaking, but I had a good enough time while reading it, and I give it 3 stars. What? Then we have The Eden Test by Adam Sternberg. This is my most anticipated book ever because The Blinds by Adam Sternberg is one of my favorite books ever. I reread it this year. It absolutely holds up. I was hoping for this part 2. I did not get that. Eden Test is about this couple. Do they have names? Probably. Who cares? And they go to this cabin in the middle of nowhere to fix their relationship. It's something called the Edenic Foundation that is run by this founder couple, and they give you 7 questions over 7 days and it will fix your relationship, is what they promise. None of that is what the book actually is, which is so disappointing. Oh, you spooked me, girl. Yeah, this book is annoying. You do get dual POV from both the husband and the wife, and you find out at the beginning, I think I can tell you this, that the husband is planning on leaving the wife, but he's just going to this cabin to break up with her, and then he'll be on his way. It doesn't quite work out that way, but there's a lot of secrets from the past from both of them, and it gets very messy, but also boring. It becomes something else, and it wasn't something that I particularly enjoyed. No jumping. I think that this book had a really cool idea, but execution was the problem. Or maybe even length. I think that if this had been a novella, maybe it would have done more interesting things. It also dealt with some subjects in maybe not the best way, some domestic violence and fertility stuff, which I didn't think was super well handled. We basically got none of the Eden Foundation. The founders show up for, I think, a chapter and then are gone. And it's just not what I wanted at all. It's basically only these 2 characters the whole time. It wasn't good, and the fact that my expectations were so high and I thought I knew what I was getting out of this, it made it like a 2-star. Because the thing, too, about The Blinds that I love is that it's so many POVs. You have probably 3 main ones that you're following, but then a bunch of other characters get little one-off chapters to just get a slice of their perspective, and that was perfection. And then this was only their 2 perspectives, and they're together the whole time. No, didn't like it. 3rd thriller in a row, why not? Everyone in my family has killed someone. Bye. Didn't write it down, so I just have to look in my brain. Ernest is the main character's name, so that's probably not the name of the author. Benjamin Stevenson. This is like my own little game show. This book is incredible. This was everything that I wanted it to be. It's funny looking back on it though, because the thing that's the best about this book is the writing, and the writing actually doesn't stick in my brain as long. It's all plot at this point. Will you ever be satisfied? I meant no. But the plot is about this family who are taking a vacation in the Australian mountains. They're skiing in Australia, which I didn't know you could do. But they get snowed in and dead bodies start popping up, and it's so much fun. But like, yeah, the writing is the perfect thing about this. In the opening chapter, he's like, I'm gonna do my best to not be an unreliable narrator here. I am a writer of mysteries, but like crime solvey things. So he's like, I'm gonna be straight up with you. A person dies in chapter 5, a person dies in chapter 12. Here's everything laid out for you, and it's still a compelling mystery, and by telling you more things, he's able to pull some stuff on you that you never could have seen coming. The atmosphere in this book was perfect. The action, there's action all the time, but also some very sweet, heartfelt moments. It is a big cast of characters. There's a lot of family and a lot of feelings about each other, some very messy web things that it was definitely confusing. This is a book you have to read with your whole brain, but I loved it. If anyone has recommendations for more books that are like this, absolutely send them my way, because this is exactly what I want to be reading, is something that does a little bit to break the fourth wall, something that is fun but bloody and doesn't take itself too seriously while still handling tough subject matters. It's perfect. 5 stars. I didn't say 5 stars. 5 stars, new favorite, easy recommend. I think that's the 3rd one in this video. We're crushing it lately. Then we have the Fiancee Farce by Alexandria Bellefleur. I read all of Alexandria, that's what we're calling her now, Written in the Stars series. Here they are. And I really liked all of those. All of those were 4 or 5 stars. And coming back to her writing is just so refreshing. This is another one where the writing really stands out. The plot is like, but she has such a specific voice. She's also someone that I follow on Instagram, so I feel like I know her a little bit. I know her obsessions with Taylor Swift and how she'll sneak some lyrics into the prose of her books. She just has so much personality in her romances, which I really like. But this one is about our people. Tansy's one of them. This woman is at a wedding for her cousin, and everyone there is like harassing her about like, are you gonna be next? Why aren't you dating anyone? Why do you suck so hard? And she has shown them a picture of a woman that she is supposedly dating. It's just a woman on Instagram. She's never met this woman. And then the woman walks into the wedding and they're like, hey, are you guys together, to this new woman, while the old woman is like freaking out. And the new woman says, actually, that's not true. We're not dating. We're engaged. That's how you write an opening chapter. That's incredible. I have so much intrigue immediately. I get a sense of their personalities. I get a sense of mystery. Perfection. So you get to do a lot of fun stuff. It's a fake dating, fake engagement story, and they have such a cool rapport with each other. The way that they speak to each other is really fun, and you're mostly following one of the girls' families because it's an inheritance thing, because it always is. Why else would you fake date? So you meet her family and friends, and one of them owns a bookshop, and it's so warm and comforting, and yeah, it's a romance that really works for me. 3rd act, still dumb, but less dumb than a lot of other romance that I've read. Give it 4 stars. We have 3 left, and all of them are absolute bangers. I feel like I've been having a bad reading year, but apparently not. The next book we're going to talk about is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi. Perfection. I read this with my husband, all via audiobook, and that narrator is incredible. Like, get her to do everything. She's so good. But the story is equally compelling. It is about our main character, Amina Al-Sirafi, who used to be a pirate of sorts, but she has since retired. But someone comes to her with one last job, and she can't say no, so she has to get the whole crew back together. And yeah, perfection. This is actually historical fantasy. I think it's set in the 11th century. Might be the 14th. I have both of those numbers in my brain. Most of the book is just about like sailing and discovering new lands and the weird stuff that they have there. But you also talk about all of Amina's ex-husbands. So it's like Evelyn Hugo, but fun. And one of her ex-husbands may or may not be a demon. This book was written for me specifically, and I love it. Amina is such a person. Like, she's real, and I believe her, and she's like hard on the outside, soft on the inside. She's so kick-ass, but like compassionate and cares about everybody, but also knows exactly what she's doing. She's fearless, but then also all of her crew are in here. They all are so distinct, and we're trying to find a missing woman, but also maybe treasure. And it's so much fun. The bad guy in this is incredible. It's nice to have like a true bad guy. The Pixarification of everything is that there aren't like villains anymore. They all have to be understood. But this guy just sucks. He sucks so hard, and I like it when he has a bad time. This is going to be a series, which I'm so down for, but you can definitely read it as a standalone. The main story wraps up, but there's so many little hints left of like, this could come back in the next book, this could expand. I hope it comes out next year. I know there was a rumor that it was going to, but I haven't seen anything on cover or title, so I need it, and I also need you to read this book. Then we have The Marriage Act by John Marrs, the newest one. This was another one I read with my husband. Maybe we spend too much time together, but I love John Marrs so much. This is classic John Marrs style. Many POVs, very short chapters. It is about the UK in the future, where many laws have been passed around marriage, making it not mandatory, but like it would be in your best interest to do this, and how that sort of messes up good relationships and bad relationships. Basically everyone in here is unlikable, but in different ways, and you find yourself rooting for certain people. There's also like a bit of a conspiracy under it, a bit of a mystery. All of their plot lines converge, but not like they don't all just show up in a room together. The world events that each of them are exploring impact each of the others, and it was such a classic John Marrs, and I was so happy. I think I gave it 5 stars. I don't see why I wouldn't have. And then the last one, another no surprise, Happy Place by Emily Henry, is 5 stars, and a new favorite and an infinite recommend. This is about a character. Does she have a name? Probably. I want to say Georgia. This is a second chance romance, but more women's journey. It's all from our main character's POV, where their friend group does this vacation every summer, and this is the last summer that they're going to be able to do it, so they're bringing the whole gang back together, but also her ex is there, and they haven't quite told anybody that they broke up yet. And so it's this like lovely vacation story where like they go out and do karaoke or go to the beach. The Lobster Festival I think is in this too. The summer vibes in this were perfection, and also there's a nice little second chance romance that I was getting on board with. Like, I think they make it very complex. These are very complex people with very complicated problems that like need to sort out their stuff, but they know it. Like, this is a romance with adults in it, and I really appreciated that, and I think this might be my favorite Emily Henry. It's hard to say what a favorite Emily Henry is because they each do something quite different, but this one had me sobbing for the last third probably, and I think that it had the most real characters and the most real world. I love the friendship group. I love the way that we focused on people a little bit, but not too much. I think that the love interest in it was great, and like generally you don't actually like them, but this guy, yeah, no, I really like him. Wynn was his name. I love Happy Place, and I'm so upset that it's only out in hardcover because all of the other Emily Henrys I own, which I guess are here, yeah, are paperbacks. Little paperbacks, so I have to wait for that one to come out so I can buy it. I'm just hoping that the paperback comes out and is in the same size, and I don't want to have to get into a whole thing. But anyway, that is the end. Those are the last 15-ish things that I read. A lot of really good stuff in there. It was actually really nice to reflect back on all of it and doing these videos does get me pumped for reading, so I am happy that I did this. And I hope that you're happy too. If you have any comments, leave them down below. Any recommendations, I would definitely appreciate them. I'm trying to reframe my reading to be 5 stars or bust. It's making me rethink my whole TBR, so if you have something, please give it to me. And thank you so much, and I will see you in another video. Bye.